Candy Miller was pregnant with her male assistant child. For our 9th anniversary dinner, she brought him home. She instructed me nonchalantly, "Leo is a picky eater. From now on, you'll cook his 3 meals a day and never make the same thing twice. He's a light sleeper, and you snore too loudly. Pack your things and move into the guest room." I said nothing, simply picked up the suitcase I had already packed and walked calmly toward the front door. The butler tried to stop me, but Candy sneered, "Just let him go. He'll come crawling back like a dog in less than 3 days anyway." At her words, everyone burst out laughing. Right in front of me, they made a $10 million bet. They were betting that before the night was over, I'd be back like a pathetic stray, crying and begging Candy to let me in the door. But they didn't know that the Maybach he had arranged was already waiting outside the gates. This time, I was really leaving for good. Just as I was about to step out of the mansion, Candy suddenly called after me. "Sonny, leave your heirloom bracelet," she said. "Leo has been having nightmares lately." That bracelet was the last thing I had from my parents. She met my tear-filled eyes with a cold stare. "Name your price." How much was a humiliating 9-year marriage worth? I couldn't be bothered to do the math. I just knew that the last time I refused to give my ski goggles to Leo at the resort, her bodyguards stripped me naked and left me halfway up the mountain. I took off the heirloom bracelet and placed it on Leo's wrist. I said to him, "I wish the 3 of you happiness and peace." Hearing my blessing, Candy, for the first time in a long while, offered me an olive branch. "Sonny, as long as you're obedient, our child can be your child too." The moment the words left her mouth, the bracelet on Leo's wrist suddenly slipped off and shattered on the floor. Seeing that Leo's leg was scratched by a shard, Candy rushed over, her heart aching. She barked at the butler to call the family doctor immediately. Candy's frantic display made everyone in the room look at me with amused expressions. In that moment, it wasn't just them who found the situation ridiculous. I found it laughable myself. Last night, when I had a hard episode, Candy was on her way out to watch a meteor shower with Leo. Even as I was foaming at the mouth and collapsing on the floor, she stepped right over my body without batting an eye. Before I passed out, I heard her tell the butler, "Have the entire living room disinfected. Leo is coming home tomorrow, and I don't want him smelling anything foul." I tightened my grip on my suitcase handle and turned to leave, but Candy grabbed my wrist, her face a cold mask. "Apologize." "What?" Before I could even finish the word, she shoved me to the floor in front of Leo. My knee scraped against the jade fragments, staining the white marble red. Seeing the blood, Candy let go of me with a look of disgust. "You deliberately broke Leo's bracelet and got him hurt. Don't you think you owe him an apology?" After marrying Candy, "I'm sorry" became my most used phrase. "The soup is too bland. I'm sorry." I texted to see if you were okay after drinking too much. "I'm sorry for bothering you." I accidentally saw Leo's text asking you to a hotel. "I'm so sorry for invading your privacy." Biting the inside of my cheek until I tasted blood, I resignedly pushed myself up. I gave Leo a deep bow and apologized 3 times, then looked at Candy with a blank expression. I asked quietly, "Is that enough for you?" Her eyes fixed on the blood at the corner of my mouth, and her chest rose and fell sharply. "Sonny, Grandpa Miller isn't here to protect you. Who are you putting on this pathetic, disgusting act for?" Before I could answer, the family doctor rushed in. Shoving me out of the way, Candy led the doctor over to Leo. While her entire world revolved around him, I walked quickly out the front door. The moment I stepped outside the mansion, I heard a car horn honk twice. Seeing the silver sedan outside the iron gates, I quickened my pace. But before the gates could open, 2 bodyguards appeared and dragged me back into the house. Inside the study, Candy had me tied to a chair. She ordered them to insert a needle as thick as a child's arm into my vein. Through the half-open door, I heard the doctor telling Candy, "Ms. Miller, I know Mr. Rhodes and Mr. Vance both have Rh-negative blood, but Mr. Rhodes has a history of heart problems. Forcing a blood draw like this could send him into acute shock. I really think we should go to the hospital to perform a proper transfusion for Mr. Vance, who is anemic." "Don't try to change my mind," Candy said, her voice like ice. "Your only job is to get Leo healthy again. I'll handle the rest." Hearing her footsteps approach, I slowly closed my eyes. "Does it hurt?" Her voice held a rare note of comfort. Just bear with it a little longer. It'll be over soon. I turned my head away, unwilling to waste my breath on her. After they had drawn 800 cubic centimeters of my blood, my lips were already turning blue. Just then, Leo, lying in the master bedroom, started to cough. At the sound, Candy immediately stopped the doctor from removing the needle and demanded he take twice the amount. The doctor, drenched in a cold sweat, told Candy that if they kept going, I would probably die. She hesitated for 2 seconds before saying, "Leo's health comes first." "But, Ms. Miller," I cut the doctor off. "Just do it. Let me leave when you're finished." Staring at my colorless face, Candy's eyes flashed with cold anger, her mouth opening. She looked like she was about to demand to know if I was done with my tantrum, if I was really going to leave home over something so trivial. But then a weak voice called from the other room, "Candy," and she was gone in an instant. 2 days later, I woke up in a hospital bed, having gone into shock. The first thing I saw was Candy, sitting in a chair and reviewing some documents. We stared at each other for a long moment. Then, with a blank expression, she brought over a bowl of soup and motioned as if to feed me. I just shook my head. I could do it myself. After silently watching me eat half the bowl, Candy asked, "Are you feeling uncomfortable anywhere?" I ignored her question. "Could you please hand me my phone?" My tone must have been too distant, because she froze for a few seconds before calling the butler to have my phone brought over. When she saw the screen light up with missed calls, she asked abruptly, "Who's been calling you?" She never used to ask so many questions. A flicker of annoyance crossed my face as I replied, "No one you know." She unbuttoned the top of her blouse and looked down at me, her eyes cold. "Sonny, how long are you going to keep throwing this childish tantrum? Give you an inch and you take a mile, is that it?" In the past, whenever Candy got angry, I would immediately start apologizing and try my best to calm her down. But now I just pointed to her vibrating phone and said flatly, "Leo's calling you." Hearing his name, a smile touched her eyes. As was her habit, she stepped out into the hospital corridor for privacy. The moment she left, my phone rang. I answered, and before I could say a word, the anxious voice on the other end spoke. "You said you were coming. Sonny, are you having second thoughts?" "No, I'm not having second thoughts. I just ran into a little trouble." "Trouble? What happened?" "That's it. I'm flying back right now." I cut him off, looking down at my hands. "Just give me a few more days. That's all I need." I just hung up when Candy came back into the room. She noticed the smile on my face, one she hadn't seen in a long time, and for some reason, she felt a strange tightness in her chest. But she had just promised Leo she would go with him to pick out a baby crib, so she didn't have time to ask who I was talking to. She probably assumed it was my cousin, the only person who still visited me. After marrying her, I didn't have any other friends left. Grabbing her files, Candy walked out without a backward glance. "Sonny, something came up at the office. I'll be back tomorrow." She didn't show up the next day, or the day after, or the day after that. But thanks to our mutual acquaintances, my phone was constantly buzzing with videos of her and Leo. She took him to galas and dinner parties. She was like a teenager in the throes of first love, eager to show off her new boyfriend to the world. The day I was discharged, Candy posted a 9-photo collage on Facebook. In it, she and Leo were kissing passionately in a hot air balloon against a beautiful sunset. I left a comment on her post, "Wishing you both a beautiful baby and a lifetime of happiness." 10 minutes later, my phone rang. It was Candy. I didn't answer. Half an hour later, having checked myself out of the hospital, I saw Candy and Leo standing outside the maternity ward. I overheard a young nurse at the front desk saying to Candy, "Mrs. Vance, your husband spoils you so much. He's here with you for every single appointment. He even warms up the ultrasound gel in his hands before we use it because he's worried you'll get cold." All the other expectant mothers in the waiting room looked at them with undisguised envy. I couldn't help but remember that we had a child once, too. Except Candy had an abortion in secret, without ever telling me. I remembered the voice message Leo sent me that day. Candy lost a bet to me. Guess she's only allowed to have my babies now, huh? Before I even had a chance to reply, my phone rang less than a minute later. It was Candy. Without asking for any explanation, she started screaming at me, calling me petty and pathetic. She even said, "Sonny, a spineless loser like you. What makes you think you're worthy of having a child with me? If I'm going to have a baby, It'll be with someone who has superior genes. Shaking myself from the memory, I started to walk away, but Candy strode over, her expression cold. What are you doing just standing there like an idiot? I lowered my gaze and explained instinctively, I wasn't following you. It's just a coincidence. I'm sorry to have disturbed you. Wait, Candy called out with a frown, and I saw a flash of jealousy in Leo's eyes. He tightened his arm around her waist and smiled at me. Mr. Rhodes, I'm so grateful for the blood you gave me. I'd probably still be feeling faint if it weren't for you. Candy, why don't we have Mr. Rhodes come home with us? Candy gave Leo a pleased look. You're the kindest man in the world, Leo. Whatever you say. Since I was planning to go back for my suitcase anyway, I didn't refuse his kind offer. We all got into the spacious black sedan. Just as Leo had clearly intended, I soon spotted a pair of lace panties tucked between the seats. Oh, how is this still here? Candy, I'm so sorry. I forgot to throw this away, Leo said, feigning embarrassment as he quickly balled them up and stuffed them into his pocket. Candy playfully tapped Leo on the chest, all while subtly watching my reaction. When she saw that I wasn't the least bit angry, that same strange feeling of frustration she'd had in the hospital room washed over her again. Sonny, you've been staring at your phone ever since we got in the car, she said, her tone sharp with something like jealousy. Are you talking to your cousin? Or is it someone else I don't know? I had just finished booking my flight, so I locked the screen. Just reading the news. My answer only seemed to deepen the displeasure on her face. Before I could react, she snatched the phone from my hand. She demanded in a low voice, What's the password? My birthday. We have been married for 9 years. It was a simple 6-digit code, but she kept trying until the phone locked her out, never once getting it right. The rest of the drive home was silent. The moment the car stopped, Candy's morning sickness flared up, and she let Leo help her to the master bedroom. Leo, acting every bit the man of the house, instructed the cook on what to prepare for her. As Candy came downstairs later, she saw my dejected figure walking toward the guest room. After a moment's thought, she told the cook, make a couple of Mr. Rhodes' favorite dishes as well, and set the table for 3 tonight. In the guest room, I opened my suitcase and found that every single piece of my clothing had been cut to shreds. Fortunately, my passport and other documents, tucked away in an inner pocket, were untouched. I gathered my papers and was about to leave when Leo blocked the doorway. He was holding a black canister, looking me up and down with contempt. Sonny, I'm surprised you can take so much, he sneered. I've moved into your house and made you the laughingstock of our entire social circle, yet you still refuse to leave. Then again, that old matriarch of the Rhodes family finally kicked the bucket last month. Without her to protect you, you have no choice but to cling to Candy for dear life. He paused, as if remembering something amusing. Sonny, do you remember that day you were crying, begging Candy to take the helicopter to the hospital so you could see your grandmother one last time? Do you know why she said no? It was because she had already promised to watch the sunset with me at the beach that day. See? This picture of us kissing on my phone's lock screen, we took it right then. I slapped the phone out of his hand and, my patience finally gone, lunged for his throat. The canister fell from his grasp, and the acrid smell of gasoline immediately filled the air. In the ensuing struggle, a panicked Leo managed to light the spilled gasoline. Thick smoke and roaring flames erupted around us. Still weak from the hospital, I was quickly overcome by the smoke and collapsed, my body going limp. Just then, I heard Candy's voice scream my name. Sonny. It was followed by the frantic shouts of the staff. Ma'am, it's too dangerous. You can't go in. Wait for security to bring the extinguishers. Move. Sonny is still in there. Despite the danger, she burst into the room. But she hadn't expected to see Leo in there as well. Candy, help me. Before he could even finish, she ran straight to him without a moment's hesitation. She didn't even spare me a glance as she helped him out and left. Half an hour later, after calming Leo down, Candy searched the entire mansion but couldn't find me anywhere. Late that night, at the airport, after mailing a package, I boarded a flight to London, coughing all the way. Right before takeoff, I received an iMessage from Candy. I don't have time for your games of hide and seek. Leo has a prenatal appointment at 10 tomorrow morning. You be there too, and get your lungs checked. I didn't reply. I just remove the SIM card and turn off the phone. Candy Miller, from this day forward, we will never see each other again. The next day at the hospital, Leo asked anxiously, Candy, are you all right? Is our baby okay? Meeting Leo's concerned gaze, Candy immediately wrapped her arms around him and whispered softly, I'm fine. The doctor said the baby is perfectly healthy, completely unaffected by what happened yesterday. Oh, that's such a relief. You've been so quiet and serious since we got here. I was worried something was wrong with our baby. Leo's innocent words made Candy pause. Unbidden, the image of my cold, detached eyes staring at her through the flames flashed in her mind. She frowned and opened her iMessage app again. She was irritated that I still hadn't sent a single word in reply. In the past, no matter how coldly she treated me, I was always at her beck and call. Now it seemed I'd learned to play hard to get. Scoffing to herself, Candy checked Leo out of the hospital and then headed to her office. The moment she walked in, her assistant informed her that Grandpa Miller was back in the country and had called an emergency meeting with all senior management in conference room 1. Hearing this, Candy turned toward the conference room, casually telling her assistant on the way, buy a few of the latest designer suits and watches for me. Her assistant replied instantly, Of course, Ms. Miller. I'll have them purchased and sent directly to Mr. Vance's apartment. Candy stopped in her tracks, pinching the bridge of her nose. Send them to the Old Roads estate, she corrected. In her mind, there was nowhere else I could have possibly gone after leaving her mansion. A week later, late one night, Candy finally came home after finishing a major project. She saw a figure curled up on the living room sofa. Sonny, how many times do I have to tell you? I'll come home when I'm done. You don't need to wait up for me, Every. She stopped mid-sentence when she got closer and saw it was Leo on the sofa. He shivered under her cold, unblinking stare, his expression a mixture of hurt and pity. Candy, he still hasn't come back. I've sent him so many apologetic messages, but he's ignored every single one. Maybe I should just move out. Seeing how upset he was, Candy felt a pang of sympathy and pulled him into a hug. She gave him a perfunctory kiss on the cheek and told him to take care of himself and not to worry. Regardless of whether Sonny accepts it, this is your home now. Half an hour after making that promise, Candy stood alone on the balcony in her silk robe, smoking a cigarette. She knew she shouldn't be smoking while pregnant, but for some reason, tonight she couldn't help herself. On impulse, she scrolled to the very bottom of her contact list and saw my name. Her thumb hovered over the call button for a long time. After finishing a second cigarette, she decided against calling. Instead, she sent a warning via iMessage. Sonny, tomorrow is Grandpa Miller's 80th birthday. I'm warning you. Don't try to pull any stunts at the party and cause trouble for me and Leo. On the day of Grandpa Miller's birthday party, Candy arrived with Leo on her arm, the two of them looking for all the world like a loving couple. She didn't let go of his hand until her grandfather made his entrance. She went to her grandfather's side to help him greet the important guests. Why isn't Sonny with you? Her grandfather asked pointedly. Candy pressed her lips together and, for once, actually defended me. I'm sorry, Grandpa. Sonny has been working so hard on your gift. He was completely exhausted. I told him to rest for a bit and come later. 2 hours flew by. The party had already reached the main event, the presentation of gifts, and I still hadn't shown up. Trying to suppress a growing sense of unease, Candy slipped into a quiet corner and dialed my number. The number you have dialed is unavailable. She stubbornly redialed, only to get the same automated message. Just then, a delivery man walked into the grand ballroom. He was carrying the 3 gifts I had sent. As the guests watched curiously, Grandpa Miller opened the first gift with a wide smile. Inside was a breathtakingly intricate hand-embroidered tapestry depicting a traditional birthday celebration. It was obvious it had taken me months of painstaking work to create. Deeply moved, Grandpa Miller opened the second gift with tears welling in his eyes. Inside was the Miller family heirloom, a gemstone his own mother had given me on my wedding day. The moment everyone saw it, a hush fell over the room. In their world, everyone knew exactly what returning a family heirloom signified. Before her grandfather could even react, Candy, her face ashen, walked stiffly toward the third and final gift, her hands clenched into fists. Just as I had planned, the woman with the face of ice lifted the lid herself. The box was large, but there was very little inside. There was only a signed divorce agreement and a medical report. Candy froze. Divorce? I wanted to divorce her. How is that possible? After reading the contents of the medical report, Grandpa Miller slapped Candy hard across the face in front of everyone. "You monster," he roared. "Look at what you've done. If I had known it would come to this, I never would have let you marry Sonny. You've ruined his life, Candy." Seeing that his grandfather was about to collapse from rage, the other Miller family members quickly escorted him out. As the guests tactfully made their exits, Candy remained standing in the same spot, staring motionlessly at the divorce papers. After what felt like an eternity, she expressionlessly tore the papers into tiny pieces. Ignoring Leo calling her name from behind, she snatched the car keys from her driver and sped off toward the Old Roads estate. But the estate was completely dark. She rolled down her window and waited by the gate, chain smoking through the night until her throat was raw and her voice was gone. But not a single light ever came on inside. 5 days after the party, she finally discovered that I had left the country. Why would I leave the country? Was he that desperate to get away from her? All she did was make a mistake any woman might make. What right did Sonny have to just disappear to demand a divorce? She wouldn't agree to it. She wouldn't allow it. After spending a small fortune, she found out my exact address. Candy immediately booked the next available flight. She didn't even go home to pack, driving straight from her office to the airport. Just as she was about to check in, a tearful Leo found her, his hand resting on her now swelling abdomen. "Candy, are you and the baby leaving me?" he cried. Candy sighed. "I've had a new apartment prepared for you. You can move in today." At her words, fresh tears streamed down Leo's face. "I'd live in a dumpster if it meant I could be with you. I'm this baby's father. Are you really going to separate a child from his father the moment he's born? If Sonny really loved you, he would accept our child as his own, not deliberately ruin your grandfather's party and humiliate you and the entire Miller family. He's the kind of person who..." Before Leo could finish, Candy cut him off, her expression frigid. "What right do you have to criticize my husband? Leo, I thought you understood things, but it seems you've forgotten your place." She took the boarding pass from the airline agent and looked down at him with an icy expression. "No matter who this baby's father is, Sonny will always be my only husband. And when you leave the mansion, make sure you take every last one of your things. I don't want Sonny to see anything of yours and get upset with me again when he comes home." Leo stared after her, his face streaked with tears, then let out a choked, bitter laugh at her retreating back. Candy Miller, I can't believe you're even more naive than I am. After everything you've done to him, what makes you think he would ever come back? They say it takes one to know one, but Candy, striding purposefully away, paid his words no mind. She thought she knew me. She thought that for the past 9 years, no matter how angry I got, all she had to do was give a sincere apology and buy me a few nice gifts, and I would be fine. After much thought, the first thing Candy did after her plane landed was find a local tattoo parlor. She showed the artist a design I had sent her 5 years ago. "I'm in a hurry," she said. "Don't bother with the anesthetic." 7 hours later, Candy walked out of the parlor, her white dress stained with blood. She bought $10 million worth of gifts and a bouquet of 999 white roses. Though she hadn't slept in nearly 48 hours, Candy drove tirelessly to a sprawling vineyard estate on the outskirts of London. On the highway, she was both nervous and excited, running through her perfectly planned apology in her head again and again. But no matter how she rehearsed it, the first words out of her mouth would always be the same, straight from the heart. "Sonny, I've missed you so much." Finally, in a foreign land, Candy found me. But the flowers she was holding fell from her hands the moment she laid eyes on me. As the sun set behind us, I stood with my arms around a beautiful, gentle woman, a relaxed and happy smile on my face that she had never seen before. Candy never got to say, "I've missed you." She just stood there stunned and asked, "Who is she?" Feeling my body go rigid, Claire Prescott snuggled closer into my embrace. "You must be Candy Miller," Claire said. "I've seen your wedding photos with Sonny. Wow, I didn't think it was possible, but you're even uglier in person." Seeing that her teasing had broken my tension, I covered my mouth and let out a small laugh. Candy felt a sharp pain in her chest, as if she'd been punched. She clenched her fists so hard her nails dug into her palms. Since you came all this way, Claire continued, I suppose I should introduce myself. I'm Claire Prescott. I'm Sonny's. Claire Prescott? Oh, I know who you are, Candy sneered. You're the daughter of the chauffeur the Rhodes family took in. The little thief Sonny's grandmother kicked out for stealing. Claire just raised an eyebrow, unfazed by Candy's insults. But I frowned, feeling protective. Candy, Claire is not what you think. And what are you even doing here? You're trespassing on private property. That's illegal. Hearing the dismissal in my voice, Candy's expression turned ugly. For a moment, she completely forgot she had come to win me back, not to fight. Sonny, I came all this way for you. Please stop this childish tantrum and just come home with me. Home? I looked at her like she was insane. Did you hit your head or something? We're divorced. Didn't you get the signed papers I sent you? I suppose it's possible the package got lost in the mail. I was just about to offer to print her another copy when she said, her voice low and defiant, I tore those ridiculous papers to shreds the moment I saw them. Sonny, I know you're angry about Leo, but I've taken care of it. I promise you, you will never have to see him again. She stepped closer, her hand reaching out to touch my face, the face she had clearly missed so much. But I pushed her hand away before it could reach me. My voice was flat, devoid of emotion. Candy, when the Rhodes family fell on hard times, your family was the only one to help. For the last 9 years, I have done my best to repay that debt. Now that you're carrying Leo's child, the Miller family finally has an heir. I sincerely wish the three of you a lifetime of happiness and peace. My meaning was clear, and someone as sharp as Candy couldn't have missed it. I was done. At that moment, she finally truly panicked. Husband, why would you say that? She stammered. Were these 9 years really just about repaying a debt? Do you expect me to believe such a pathetic lie? No, of course she wouldn't believe it. If I didn't love her, why did I insist on a kiss every single morning before I left for work? Why did I cry until my eyes were swollen shut and refuse to leave the surgical waiting room when she had her appendectomy, no matter what anyone said? I had loved her so much. Anyone with eyes could see how deeply I cared for her. And what had she done with that love? The more I adored her, the more obedient I became, the more she delighted in crushing my spirit and my dignity. She forgot that a heart can only take so much. After enough pain, you go numb. And eventually, you stop wasting your emotions on someone who doesn't deserve them. Forcing a smile that looked more painful than a grimace, Candy stared at me, her eyes red-rimmed. Sonny, I honestly didn't know having Leo around would upset you this much. He was just a drunken one-night stand. I only brought him home because I was bored. I promise, it will never happen again. I just shook my head firmly. Candy, I don't care about you and Leo. All you need to know is that I have a new life here now. I'm not going back with you, so you should just leave. A new life? You, overcome with rage and exhaustion from 2 sleepless nights and blood loss from the tattoo, Candy felt the world spin before she could finish her sentence. Everything went black. When she woke up, it was 11 o'clock at night. Seeing a glass of water on the nightstand, she mistakenly assumed I had left it for her. A flicker of hope lit up her face as she pushed through her discomfort and went to find me. But when she reached the rooftop terrace, sweating and dizzy, she was greeted by the sight of Claire and me, wrapped in a passionate embrace. A sharp pain shot through her heart. Her face pale, Candy lunged forward and grabbed Claire by the collar. Why are you trying to seduce him? She snarled. She could no longer pretend that Claire was just some childhood friend. Sonny is my husband. Claire just laughed. Your husband? Candy, have you ever, for 1 second, treated him like a husband you cherish? You? Before Candy could say another word, Claire, who had a fiery temper, slapped her hard across the face. Listen to me, Miller. If Sonny wasn't such a good person, I would have thrown you out of this estate to be eaten by wolves. I'm telling you right now, Sonny is my fiancé. It doesn't matter how much you grovel or harass him, he won't give you the time of day. At those words, Candy slowly lowered her raised fist and stared at me in disbelief. Is she telling the truth? She asked, her voice trembling. Sonny, we haven't even been apart for a month, and you're going to marry someone else? I didn't tell her that the very day I found out she was pregnant, I had proposed to Claire over a video call. She had been in love with me since we were kids. I just pulled Claire closer and gave a small, non-committal hum. Candy's face was a mask of disbelief. "Sonny, have you lost your mind? You're my husband. I never agreed to a divorce. And now you're with another woman? How dare you do this to me?" "Why wouldn't I dare?" I tilted my head, giving her a slow blink. "Why would I need your consent?" "Candy, you really overestimate your own importance. Let me tell you one last time. You mean nothing to me. We are over." With that, I ignored the devastated look on Candy's face, intertwined my fingers with Claire's, and turned back to look at the moon. No one knew when Candy left the estate that night, and no one cared. But she didn't go back home. Instead, she bought a penthouse in a high-rise building nearby, one with a clear view of my vineyards. Her daily routine consisted of video conferences with her executive team back in the States, and then driving to the gates of my estate. She would wait there for hours, always with a new bouquet of flowers or one of the gifts I had once mentioned wanting, but that she had never bothered to get me. I never acknowledged her, and I certainly never changed my plans for her. 9 years of a demeaning, one-sided marriage had taught me one thing: never alter the course of your own life to accommodate someone else. I worked when I needed to work and socialized when I wanted to. My only responsibility was to my own happiness. As for Candy, I figured the only reason she was still hanging around was because Grandpa Miller, who had always been fond of me, was forcing her to win my forgiveness. So I called Grandpa Miller myself. I told him I had a fiancée and a new life, and that he shouldn't force Candy to waste her time in London out of pity for me. But even after that call, she was still there, every single day for the next month, waiting at the gates just to catch a glimpse of me through my car window. The first person to lose their patience was Claire. One night, as we were driving home from a party, we saw her from a distance, standing under a streetlight, holding her usual bouquet of white roses. The moment I stepped out of the car, the sky behind me exploded with thousands of rainbow-colored fireworks. Claire had once tortured herself by watching the video of Candy's proposal to me over and over. I had been so young and naive back then, completely swept away by the spectacle as I happily said yes. Now, seeing my attention captured by the fireworks, Claire, who was already feeling insecure, finally snapped. She stormed up to Candy, and the two of them started fighting. "Candy Miller, you shameless homewrecker," Claire screamed. "All you do is try to seduce my fiancé. I have never met anyone as pathetic and desperate as you." "If I'm so pathetic, what does that make you?" Candy shrieked back. "I was with Sonny for 9 years. You're the one who came later. You're the other woman. He's only with you because he's mad at me. He thinks I cheated on him, so he's settling for his perennial second choice. As soon as I talk some sense into him, he'll dump you and come right back to me." Hearing this, Claire laughed coldly and shoved Candy to the ground. When I had been sick, it was Claire who had dropped everything to fly to my side, staying with me day and night until I was well again. And where was Candy then? She'd used work as an excuse, but she was actually in Prague with Leo, living it up. No matter what I did, the two women kept fighting, right until a police car happened to drive by. One of the officers made eye contact with Candy, then immediately got out his car to break up the fight. Without asking many questions, they took all 3 of us to the nearest hospital. Once there, after making sure Claire was okay, I was unexpectedly pushed into Candy's room. In that moment, I finally understood. The entire night had been a setup. She had gone to all this trouble, staged this entire drama, just to get a few minutes alone with me. I looked at her, a humorless smile on my face. Was all this really necessary? Candy, who had 2 broken ribs from the fight, looked at me with red-rimmed eyes and gave a small, sheepish smile. Then, in a hoarse voice, she said word by word, "Sonny, I miss you. I miss you so much I think I'm going insane." As the doctor came in to treat her injuries, I saw the tattoo on her chest. A sun, a moon, and a star. It was a design I had drawn myself, years ago, to represent a family. I remembered what she'd said about it at the time. The moon? You think someone like you deserves to be the moon. Now, in the hospital room, with Claire conveniently sent away, Candy grabbed my wrist in a death grip, refusing to let go. "Sonny, I need to apologize. I'm so sorry, husband. Everything was my fault. I'll do anything to make it up to you. Please, just forgive me. Before I could respond, her phone rang, right on cue. It was Leo. Candy answered and immediately put it on speaker. Ms. Miller, help me. Your assistant just burst in here with a bunch of guys. They're throwing me out. We have a child together. I'm the father. Listening to Leo's desperate pleas, Candy didn't even flinch. Leo, she said calmly, there is no baby. I had an abortion. And those posts you pay to have spread on Twitter about our supposed love story, I've had every single one of them scrubbed from the internet. From this moment on, we have nothing to do with each other. There was a choked silence on the line for several seconds. Then Leo, sobbing and gasping for air, started begging frantically through the phone. Ms. Miller, punish me however you want. I'm begging you. Just spare our child. Please. His plea was cut off by a sudden, terrifying scream, and I instinctively flinched. Seeing the look on my face, Candy immediately hung up the phone. She took my hand and gently placed it on her own pale cheek, her eyes full of a desperate affection. Sonny, you heard, she whispered. There are no more obstacles between us now. Can you forgive me, just a little? Even the smallest amount would be enough. I pulled my hand back as if it had been soiled. Looking at her crestfallen face, I suggested coolly, this hospital has an excellent psychiatric ward. You should make an appointment. Candy just gave me a weak smile. Okay, whatever you say. Candy thought about the countless things she owed me from the past 9 years. But it didn't matter. She had seen her error and was determined to spend the rest of her life making it up to me. On the third day of her newfound resolve, Claire Prescott and I had a lavish wedding. By the time Candy got word and drove like a maniac to get there, the gray-haired officiant was just finishing the vows. Candy arrived just in time to hear me say those 2 words to Claire, who was radiant in her white gown. Ido. No, she screamed. Sonny, you can't marry her. A sharp, numbing pain seized her heart, and she collapsed to her knees on the bright red aisle runner, as if she'd been struck by lightning. The normally cool and composed Candy Miller looked like a pathetic, drenched stray. Kneeling before me, she begged in a raw, hoarse voice, Husband, don't divorce me. I never wanted a divorce. Please, I'm begging you, don't marry someone else. My eyes filled with undisguised disgust as I looked down at her. Candy, the only reason I'm not having you thrown out is that your grandfather sent me a very generous wedding gift. I can almost forgive you for interrupting my wedding for his sake, but you are not welcome here. Get out. At my cruel words, the tears she'd been holding back finally began to stream down her face. Sonny, I know I was wrong. I really do. Just give me one last chance. I swear I'll change. I can't live without you. Since you left, I think about you every single day. Even my dreams are filled with all the ways you used to be good to me. Sonny, I love you. I love you more than anyone in the world. She screamed her desperate confession for everyone to hear. She was so agitated the veins in her forehead stood out, tearing at her dress. She pointed to the still raw moon tattoo on her chest. You are my moon, husband. I'll give you anything you want. Just please don't leave me. A small laugh escaped my lips. Seeing that I was not only unmoved but actually amused, Candy looked completely dumbfounded. I met her shattered gaze and said calmly, Candy, I have found someone who truly loves me and who I love in return. Her name is Claire, and she's my bride. As for you, even if you were the last woman on earth, I would never be with you. She watched, frozen, as I took the 9-carat diamond ring and slid it onto the finger of a blushing Claire. Candy felt the blood turn to ice in her veins. I took Claire's hand, and we walked right past Candy without a second glance, heading for the limousine waiting to take us on our honeymoon. As we left her behind, Candy did something horrifying and completely unexpected. She grabbed the long, silver knife from the wedding cake table. Her eyes streaming with tears, she screamed at my back, You're just afraid of getting hurt again. But that's okay. I'll show you my heart right now. And with that, she plunged the knife deep into her own chest, her body instantly convulsing in agony. See, Sonny, she gasped, trembling violently. My heart, it loves you. It's always loved you. Sonny, please just turn around. Look at my heart one last time. As Candy's pathetic screams echoed behind us, Claire snuggled into my arms and said with a sweet smile, "Husband, that psycho is terrifying. Let's get out of here." I strode quickly out of the church and gently helped her into the passenger seat of the waiting sports car. "Wife," I said, "let's run away together." "Okay," Claire said, her eyes crinkling at the corners as she leaned her head on my shoulder. I pressed the accelerator to the floor, and we sped off toward our real happiness.